Ringing in the changes. A recording of Big Ben bonged in Brexit at the Prime Minister's residence in Downing Street, but the country is still riven by the issue. Those celebrating Britain's exit from the EU in Parliament Square did so with a fierce passion. For some, Britain had been set free.
I'm excited and relieved that this was waiting 3.5 years for this now. It's been put off for a long time. They've basically tried to stop it happening.
And for so-called Brexiteers like Nigel Farage, who fought a long campaign to take the UK out of the EU, it was an historic day. For decades, he held a minority view, but with Britain's exit, he led the celebrations at the nation's departure.
And all of us have made history, and this is the greatest moment in the modern history of our great nation.
But the nation is far from united in joy at the move. Pro-EU supporters gathered outside the Scottish Parliament. Here in Edinburgh and in other parts of the UK, there was sadness. A majority of Scots voted to stay in the EU, but their voice is being ignored in Westminster.
I think it's appalling. I mean, 62% of us voted to remain in Europe, and we're being dragged out against our will. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Sorrow in Brussels too. Here and in other cities on the continent, young Britons rallied, their future less certain, and their vision of a nation at home in Europe seemingly defeated.
Oh, Harry, you haven't seen the great video.
And for me, it breaks my heart that the UK seems to think that it's better to move away from our family.
Brexit has exposed a huge division in British politics, but the show of emotion and tribalism in the UK, on its point of departure from the EU, indicates that the debate over its place in Europe is far from settled.
Joining us now is DW correspondent Birgit Maas in London. Birgit, day one after Brexit, what is the mood like where you are at and across Britain?
Well, here on Parliament Square, you've shown that there were strong feelings expressed yesterday, and these feelings are not going away. The Brexiteers who were really patriotic and relishing their freedom, they are still feeling like that today, and they feel that they have won, that there was a victory. And I compare a little bit Brexit to football. It's you either with one team or with the other team, and those divisions are not going to go away very easily in the next years. I brought you some papers, and the pro-European Daily Express says, relishing in some patriotic feeling, saying that our time has come, so the time of the Brexiteers. Then the also pro-Brexit Sun is a bit more looking forward and says, make leave, not war, so hinting at what's in Boris Johnson's in tray and his huge task that he has ahead of him of bringing the country together.
Well, exactly. I mean, he's promised to make Brexit an incredible success. So what are the steps towards that success, and are they in fact credible in your estimation?
Well, first of all, there is everything that needs to be settled with the European Union. So it's just 11 months that he has set himself as a time frame where he really needs to come to terms with a new relationship with the European Union. And that's an incredible task. A lot of experts say it's not enough time, but all the economic relationship, all the security details, everything that concerns Britain's way forward with the EU and also with the rest of the world. He only has a few months' time to actually do that. And then, of course, there is the country that he needs to consider. So he has promised to level up, is what he said, the country. There were many voters, especially in the north of England, who for the first time in their life voted for the Conservative Party. And he has said that he wants to bring a new optimism into their life, new infrastructure, and that he wants to better the life of the people. And many of those people voted Brexit. So it's a huge task. just looking at foreign policies, but also looking at reconstructing Britain from within.
And how precisely is Boris Johnson proposing to heal the division that this Brexit debate has caused? I liked it when you said the country was like two supporting sides of two rival teams. How does he make everybody like the same team, if you will?
That is really the big question. I think he wants to do this by his charisma and by his optimism. That seems to be his plan. But also, I know that a lot of the pro-Europeans are incredibly bitter about a lot of the lies during the Leave campaign. And this campaign was led by Boris Johnson, about the brutality that he has displayed and just getting his enemies out of the picture. So there is a lot of bitterness here in the UK, and it remains to be seen whether his drive and his optimism is enough to bring the country together.
All right, DW's Birgit Maas in London. Thank you for that. And to shed some more light on the situation, we're joined in the studio by DW's Brexit analyst, Rob Mudge. Rob, the UK has left the EU. What next?
Well, it's left, but the realities on the ground means nothing much changes within the next 11 months, the so-called transition period. The UK will remain in the customs union, the single market, goods, people, services can move freely. But legally, technically, it's the Article 50, which was the withdrawal process. That is now official. The divorce is settled, and the only way the UK would be able to get back in is to officially apply to rejoin. But within the next 11 months, nothing much will actually change for the people themselves.
The UK is going to be negotiating a new trade deal with the European Union. What are the most important issues for it?
Well, I think, first off, Boris Johnson's ambitious goal to have an all-encompassing deal, which would include trade and services and education and science, I think that is fairly over-ambitious to do that within 11 months. I think they'll focus on a bare-bones trade deal, kind of non-tariffs, non-customs on certain goods. I think that's the only thing they can achieve within that time span, and then depending on how those talks go, also on fishing rights, that's a crucial issue, then they'll be able to move into the other areas.
Just in that report we saw, there were scenes of what I guess we could almost describe as mourning in Scotland. Yeah. Is there a good chance the Scots will leave the UK now? Well,
First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is trying to push to introduce a new bill this year, then to pave the way for a referendum. But again, Westminster has a veto, so it could block that. One idea that's being mooted now is that she would try and hold a non-binding referendum to test the waters, to see if there's enough support for a referendum. But again, that would also need a transfer of power from London to Scotland to be able to hold a non-binding referendum. So right now, I think, they're putting all their cards on the table and trying to see how much they can influence in that sense.
Maybe another challenge that Boris Johnson is facing is healing the deep divisions in the country, because it was a close-run race, and you've got families that can barely talk to each other, intergenerational divides, town versus country. How does he heal all that?
Well, I think he started off yesterday or at midnight by keeping the celebrations low-key. I think he made a determined effort to come across as being appeasing and moderate. I think, he said this is a new era for the UK. He's going to try and move the country forward and try and strike a good deal with the EU. I think also much depends on his approach, on how he goes into the talks and negotiations. If he can come across as being moderate and not so hardline, I think then people might be willing to give him a chance in those talks.
OK. DW's Brexit analyst Rob Mudge, thanks for that insight.
Thank you.